Our use case today takes us to San Francisco. The scenario is that we have an event coming up in a few weeks where several employees will be traveling to, and we want to do an evaluation of the hotels that they'll be staying at as well as the area around the Moscone Center so we can make sure that we're giving them any recommendations needed to keep themselves safe and fulfill our duty of care. What I've done is saved several of these locations in the platform. We see the Moscone Center as well as 4 other nearby hotels within about a half mile of the event site. And we can see these stack ranked by base score. If I sort from high to low, we can see that the Canopy San Francisco and the Moscone Center are sort of, very similar areas, sit in that higher score, and then the Westin is going to give us a lower base score. So let's go to the Canopy and figure out what's driving the score around the city. To start off, I'm going to bring us to our base score view. Base score is going to show us how different areas of the city compare to one another in terms of their risk profile. So we can see that the area around the Canopy has a base score of an 83, and this is for overall crime. Clicking on our base score analytics tab is going to show us how, on a crime by crime basis, this area stack ranks for comparative risk. So here we can see base score for each one of the event types that we have selected over here in our filter panel. And we can see that it's things like property crime as well as aggravated and simple assault that are ultimately driving up that base score. So let's hone in on the crime types that we actually would care most about for an event security assessment and see how the base score changes. As we focus in on violent crime and nonviolent theft, we'll see our base score adjust to something closer to about an 80, right? Again, being driven by primarily things like petty theft, but on the violent crime side, it's going to be aggravated assault and simple assault driving those up. Homicide and sex offenses have sort of a low to medium base score. We can look into this in more detail at a different level of granularity in our other map views. So let's drill into this area and check out the data behind the base score. As we flip over to our heat map view, we can start to see where concentrations of activity tied to these events are occurring most frequently around the city. Here we can see these concentrations really to the northwest of not just the hotel, but the Moscone Center, around Market Street, between the Westin, Union Square, and sort of the Four Seasons and Moscone Center. When we look at a half-mile radius, which gives us a good overview of the crime profile and sort of the entire area we're operating in, we see about 600 nonviolent thefts, 409 simple assaults, 265 aggravated assaults, and 228 counts of more violent robbery, all within the past 12 months. So these are the things that are driving up that base score. What's interesting is we could see that the majority of these violent crimes and property crimes are all occurring in the evening time frame, that sort of 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. window. This is going to be really important because that's when folks are going to be walking back from the Moscone Center to their hotels. And part of our recommendations might be just, number one, practice situational awareness. Make sure you're traveling with a coworker when you can. Take transportation, things like Uber, taxis, to make sure that you're not putting yourself in any situations that might increase your overall risk. Now, we have an understanding of the types of things that are happening and when they're happening. Now we'd like to understand what sort of trend analysis insights can we derive from this location. We can see that crime volume is fairly consistent throughout the year. Recently, we saw a spike in February of 2025, but overall, we're hovering around that sort of average of about 100. Really, that's about 4 to 5 a day within this sort of half-mile radius of where we're operating in. One thing that's really useful in sort of validating some of these spikes, like the one we saw in February of 2025, is taking a look at our average events by month of year. Here we can see that we typically do see a spike of events in February, and this is going to be showing you averages across the 5-year data set that we have on the platform. So we know this is pretty normal. Things sort of reduce in the coming months and kind of average out to that 136 incidents per month for the remainder of the year. So that spike is pretty normal. We can anticipate that crime volume is going to kind of stick to that baseline here in the coming weeks. Now, we can also take a look at unrest activity. What base operations is great at showing you is how close to the areas that we're operating in do we usually see unrest? When peaceful protests happen, where are they most likely to occur? When more violent types of unrest happen, where are they most likely to occur? Here we could see when we filter down to just our unrest categories, and let's look at the incident map for reference, we can see there's heavy concentrations of things like peaceful protests up near Market Street and Union Square. Some of the more recent events in this area have been tied to LGBTQ plus actor groups. We can see things like healthcare workers, but for the most part, these are sort of concentrated peaceful protest event, not a lot in the more violent demonstrations or violent unrest realm, which is great to see. These are just a few of the ways that you can drill down and really make sure that you're putting the best possible recommendations forward to keep your travelers safe. There's always more to see, so if you have questions and want to dig deeper, feel free to reach out. Thank you.